ત્યારે જ વૈશ્વિક બજારની તેજીને આધારે આજે ભારતીય બજારમાં પણ જોરદાર મજબૂતી છે. આગળ વૈશ્વિક સંકેતો કઈ તરફ રહેશે એના પર વધુ ચર્ચા કરવા જોડાઈ રહ્યા છે CNBC બજારના એક્ઝિક્યુટિવ એડિટર પ્રદીપ પંડ્યા અને XM.com ઓસ્ટ્રેલિયાના CEO Peter Mcguire. Good morning, gentlemen.
Abhar Nisha. Morning, Peter. Nice to see you here in India in our studio.
Good morning, Pradeep.
So today, if you see, all the global markets are kind of celebrating the job data that came out over the weekend in US. But you know, earlier so far, whenever we had good job numbers or any other economic data point that was really strong, people used to fear, you know, earlier than expected rate hike.
Exactly.
But now it seems you only see all the positives and there is no downside to it.
Well, that's right. I mean, when you're looking at, you know, global bond yields and what's happening across, you know, the Eurozone from Germany and, of course, you know, the Dutch and so on with negative rates and, of course, where Japan is, from where our viewpoint, it's going to be a very tough time for the Fed to raise a rate this year. We've got an election coming up in, you know, the best part of 6 months away. I think 2017 would be the first real period of testing a rate rise. Some analysts are calling you might see something in September or October this year. Certainly those non-farm payroll numbers that were released on Friday night were better than expected. I think that really shook the market a little bit. We noticed the crude market was very much sold off. You've seen a very strong uptick across Asia today. I was seeing some numbers as far as Tokyo and a number of the other markets have had a nice uptick. So from where it positions itself, I think it's going to be a wait-and-see approach. What happens as far as the Brexit? Where does that play into other countries having a vote of confidence to stay into the Eurozone? And I think that there's enough global positioning at the moment to stall any thoughts of a rate rise by Yellen.
So there is a lot of noise, but if you see what really is the direction, I mean, just 10 days back it seemed that Brexit vote has in fact triggered a recession in United Kingdom and the European Union, and that would probably spill over to the rest of the world as well. Now after 10 days markets are at a new high.
Well, certainly I've got to agree with you. As far as the FTSE is concerned, it's had a wonderful, really in the last 7 or 8 days, it's been very, very strong, how it's repositioned itself and had a boom. The currency's been hemorrhaged. If you look at the gold market in Great British pound terms, we were at £700 to an ounce of gold January, approximate. We're now at about 1,040, 1,050. That's the best part of 50% rise in 26 weeks. So that shows from a fear side what's going on, and in some points there's every chance you're going to see £1,100 taken out for an ounce of gold probably in July. So whilst we're confident and we're conscious of that uptick as far as the stock indexes, we're also mindful as far as currency fluctuation.
Okay, so let's talk about it one by one. First, currency. Like you just mentioned, the pound has fallen compared to other currencies, and
yes.
It's now still trying to find a bottom.
Yes.
So here on, which currencies do you think over next 6 months are going to be the winners?
I've got to say, possibly the yen. The yen's had a nice uptick, and I think that will continue against the US dollar. As far as the pound's concerned, I really feel that you're going to have a little bit of pressure there to the downside over the next month or two.
How much more do you think?
I wouldn't be surprised to see a wipe of probably another 3 to 5% taken off the market. Soros's thoughts there, George Soros, is about 20% wipe off of the pound. That may be a little bit bullish to the downside, but you know, we're going to approach probably 14 to 15%. I wouldn't be surprised to take those numbers out by September. Other currencies, gee, you know, maybe you might see a little bit further uptick as far as the euro. But it's just, when you look back in the historical over the last, say, 6 months, we've seen large price swings and volatility swings across most of the currencies. And I think that will continue because of the uncertainty due to the Brexit issues, interest rates, and of course what's going on from a macro view across the globe.
So a stronger yen and a weaker pound is what we should be expecting from here.
Yes.
To talk about commodities, first of all, the precious metal, that is a separate segment altogether. So let's talk about gold and silver first. How bullish are you, and what kind of targets?
You know, silver, Pradeep, is really showing some wonderful uptick. We're up around about 45-50% in the matter of the last month or two. I think that will continue. Some analysts are calling a $30 US an ounce. That may be a little bit too excessive, but I wouldn't be surprised to take a $23 or $24 sometime by August. The way gold is, and remember that silver, you know, from an industrial demand, and also it doesn't have the same volume as far as futures trading for gold, and understandably so. If you look at the bullion market, gold, I think, you know, your 1340s, 1350s, probably take a 1400 handle out within the next matter of weeks. I think that upward tick and upward trajectory is not going to lose any momentum, and that will continue. I'm conscious where also oil trades in that. Now at $44, $45, I think that could, you could see a further washout to that $42, $43 level.
Okay, so you know, Indians make more money out of gold and silver not because the metal prices move up in global market, but because currency depreciates. So over the last 20 years, that's the kind of track record we have had.
Yes.
We talked about other global currencies, but do you really track rupee? You have a view on that?
Well, I have a view on it. I do track it in the sense I keep an eye on it. Where it's situated at the moment, there's probably further, I would say, dependent upon what happens with the US dollar. If the US dollar, and we do see a rate rise this year, then I think that's going to underpin the value of the dollar, and it'll probably push it higher. So you may see a weaker rupee. But it's a wait-and-see approach as far as what Yellen's mindset is. She's got enough on her hands. We saw those stronger than expected payroll numbers. If they can continue over the next couple of months, I would have thought that inflation, if you see a weakness across that crude sector, and back around that early 40s, then inflation is going to be stripped out of the states. So that's not going to be a major concern as far as any strategy on the Fed's behalf of raising it due to inflation. So it's a wait-and-see approach, and I think over the next, as I said, over the next 3 to 6 months, I think that volatility will remain across the currency sector.
Okay, so coming to the equity now, do you see US markets hitting new highs? I mean, very close to that.
We are.
2% or 3% from the all-time highs. And what about Sensex and Nifty?
First off, I think the US, you know, our viewpoint would be that it's pretty well maxed out. You might see a little bit of markets traditionally become exhausted eventually, you know, to an upside, and I think that where the US markets are situated at the moment, it's going to take a lot of very good news for them to trend significantly higher from here. You know, I'm talking 10 or 15% plus. Over the next, say, 6 to 12 months, we wouldn't be surprised to see some form of levelling off. It's a little bit exhausted to the upside and probably just range trade. But the markets can whipsaw and be volatile in those price points because, you know, you see them trim off 8 or 10% in a very quick period of time and then rebound, as we saw and demonstrated with the Brexit issue. Where you're talking about the Indian, I still have very warm feelings towards India. I think there's plenty of upside there over the longer period, the next 3 to 10 years. I haven't taken my mind away from the IMF's numbers and where they're forecasting. You've got the right ingredients as far as certainly demographics. Secondly, it's an entrepreneurial spirit. Is certainly India plays very strongly into that. And of course, the next part is overall demand. So I think that, you know, you're going to sit at those 7+% growth numbers, GDP.
You didn't mention the government, so are you not really optimistic?
No, I didn't. No, I didn't mention the government. I think you know, Prime Minister Modi's got his hands certainly on the wheel, and I think you've got a good man at the charge. Politics are an interesting game in themselves. We've just come through an election in Australia. It took about a week and a half to get a result, close to a hung parliament, and we've now got the incumbents back in, the Liberal Party. What happens here, it's just a wait-and-see approach as far as, you know, the next 12 to 18 months. But that's the political agenda. I mean, if you put your mind across, I think we're going through... Earlier this year, I used to say, you know, we've got a couple of major issues ahead of us. Certainly Brexit is one of them. Well, that's lived it and told the story. And the second one, of course, is the Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump, what carries on there. And we're only 6 months out from an election, and it's going to be a very, very interesting race leading up to the next 6 months. So that takes, again, it forces, I think, more volatility into the market. Unknown.
Okay, so you see a lot of volatility actually. That's
yes,
the feel that I get out of this interaction. Thanks a lot, Peter, for taking time out for us. તો પીટર મેકવાયર અત્યારે એમ કહી રહ્યા છે કે આપણે માર્કેટમાં આવતા દિવસોમાં ખાસા મોટા 10% મૂવમેન્ટ ઉપર નીચે બંને બાજુ જોવા મળી શકે છે. જે રીતે ખાસ આગળ ઘટનાઓ છે, ખાસ કરીને બ્રેક્ઝિટનો એક મોટી ઇવેન્ટ છે અને પછી અમેરિકામાં પણ ઇલેક્શન થવાના છે. ઇન્ડિયન માર્કેટ્સ ઉપર લોંગ ટર્મનો વ્યૂ એમનો ખાસો પોઝિટિવ છે, પણ અત્યારે આપણે વૈશ્વિક બજાર સાથે અહીંયા પણ મોટી વધઘટ જોઈ શકીએ. નિશા.